They think that women YouTubers can't go to heaven because men masturbate over them. Rubbed one out for them. Now no one goes to heaven. I'm a long-haired native who doesn't steal, so whenever I get followed in a store, I keep the employee on my tail for as long as possible to make it a little easier for people who need to steal to get what they need. Man buys a hate group's domain and turns it into a guy furry site. The Wolves of Odin is an anti-Muslim hate group, but if you go to their Canadian website, you'll only see love. My freshman semester of college, I used to buy weed from a kid who would give discounts for shit like signing pro-environmental petitions and going to protests. Johnny, wherever you are, I hope you're doing well. This man did more for the environment than any politician I've ever seen. Richard Bradley, dressed in a Union soldier's uniform, cut down the Confederate flag from atop the 50-foot pole in front of San Francisco City Hall, April 15, 1984. Need a laugh? Missouri set up a hotline for snitching on trans people, and it was so overrun with pranksters clogging it with fake reports and random bullshit that they had to shut it the duck down. If you steal a giant sign out of the hands of anti-abortion protesters, they'll call 911 and follow you down the street instead of garroting other women. Ask me how I know. Missouri trans snitch form down after people spammed it with the B-movie script. Why is it when something happens, it's always you three? B-movie, Morbius, Shrek. Confidence boosting. You are beautiful. Pepper spray a cop. The best kind of justice. Another year my wife had a miscarriage. I was visibly upset and discussed it with them. A week later, after getting onto a kid about something, he said, "That's why your baby died." I have never felt a rage like that before. One of my teachers in high school, who recently had a miscarriage at the time, got told the same thing by a student during class. Another student, one of the football players, dragged the kid outside and slammed his face into a locker. Guy got suspended for a week, but I feel like it was worth it. I wonder if the BTS and TikTok kids can help LBTs with this. What if guys took pictures of themselves making out with each other or doing very guy things, then tagged themselves with #ProudBoys? I bet it would mess them up real bad. #reclaiming my shine. If I ever become a history teacher, I'm going to write gullible on the ceiling. Then in the middle of class, I'll announce, "There's gullible written on the ceiling." After the whole look versus not look shenanigan occurs, I shall then slam my books on my desk, prop myself up, lean forward and say, "Welcome to history. Your first lesson? Check your facts for yourself. Chaotic evil. Chaotic learning." The best argument I have for people who refuse to wear masks is that my 29-year-old brother with no underlying conditions died of COVID-19. He's not real, but if these people will believe lies, then I'm proud to throw a useful one their way. Okay, my teacher wanted a story that's gonna shock him. So I wrote him a cute little story about a couple, Fletcher and Maya, falling in love. And the last sentences of story are, "So, what is your full name? I mean, what is Maya short for?" Michael. Because my teacher is kinda homophobic, I'm gonna force him into enjoying a fluffy love story with no gender pronouns. And well, what a shame you liked a story about a guy couple. Sorry, man. What is the most disgusting secret you're hiding right now? My wife went out drinking with co-workers and got shut-faced. I had to struggle to get her inside. Bulk out drunk, crying, yoking. It was a nightmare, and not the first time doing this. After putting her to bed, I shut on the driveway next to her car door and told her she did it while drunk, and told her the neighbor saw her do it. She found it going to work the next day. She has not went out drinking since, and this was 4 years ago. If she does drink, she's one and done. 15-year-old boy imitates 14-year-old girl on social media to attract a paid-for file, then proceeds to attack the paid-for file until police arrive, where he then delivers a thumb drive of all the conversations, all while wearing a Spider-Man mask. Teachers. The Supreme Court just ruled that you can lead your students in prayer. I hope you are all prepared to uphold and honor that decision. Bring out your prayer rug, your pentagrams, your herbs and tarot cards, your Quran, your Tanakh and Talmud, your ram's horn, your Star of David, your Baphomet, your satanic Bible, your altars, your Tibetan prayer wheel, your book of shadows. The thief shared that stole 10,000 rupees. A video is going viral on the internet of a thief being interrogated at a police station in Chhattisgarh. In the hilarious clip, the thief confessed that he stole 10,000 rupees, and when Durg Superintendent of Police Dr. Abhishek Pallava asked him what he did with the money, he claimed that he has spent all the money feeding strays and cattle. The thief also shared that he had distributed blankets among the poor. Model and actress Anita Ekberg, after being followed and hounded by photographers, beat up one of them. When they pretend to call the cops, she retrieved a bow and arrow from her villa and shot another photographer. 1960. I was sick of seeing so many people swimming in the river at Yellowstone with clear no swimming signs. So I shouted from the bridge that there was flesh-eating bacteria in the water and everyone ran out. Don't let the world fool you. Consistent kindness is the most quietly powerful thing. If you ever want to engage in villainy and undermine the social order, be especially kind to the people society has rejected. Care about the ones the world would convince you don't deserve your kindness. I genuinely mean this when I say to you, the ultimate act of rebellion is insisting on compassion and grace in a compassionless world. Disruptive compassion. Reblogging because I have a lot of feelings about this, and because I believe very strongly in that the most punk rock and badass thing you can do is to live your life with aggressive empathy and kindness. I'm just going to leave this here. You can vaccinate your kids and then hold a raw potato to the wound where the needle entered, and it will snack the toxins from the vaccines out, leaving only the non-toxic parts. It's a great way to stay healthy and thwart Big Pharma. This will yield better results than any amount of time spent trying to educate these people. Same energy as that time in college I told a girl that the tarot says she needs to go call her mom and start going to therapy, and she ducking did. Adology. Our school cut down this tree, and so someone left a cutout of the Lorax on the stump. I changed my Wi-Fi ID to 5G Tower 1000% power, and all the Karens in my town are trying to find it. This guy, a guy wearing a TV on his head, that's right, was caught on security video doing this at 50 homes. Guy with TV on head leaves old TVs on front porches of homes. City of Gainesville dumped loads of mulch on one of the skate parks in town. Someone posted free mulch on Facebook, and it was 100% gone by the rest of the day and blown clean with leaf blowers by citizens. Get work, Gainesville. That's the civil disobedience I'm talking about. My mom phoned me today and told me that someone in my hometown had robbed the pharmacy at gunpoint, but the pharmacist started having an anxiety attack and the robbers were so worried about her they offered to call her an ambulance while they were robbing her. Was this in Canada? Of course it was. Woman in my office is going through a breakup, and the work guys chat was trying to think of something nice to do for her, and one of the guys, very sincerely, said women like mac and cheese. Right, maybe we can do something with that. LMFAO. He's right though. This is the only version of boys will be boys that I'll accept. Guys, this is the true crime story of the decade. Yesterday a friend told me what might well be the best story I've ever heard. She had caught the train in from Frankston, and while she was waiting for the train to come, she noticed a man sitting down on the platform with a bag of fish and chips. But he wasn't really eating them. He was just sort of letting them air. This attracted a few seagulls, who began to circle the platform. Instead of shooing the birds away, the man offered them a few chips. He'd toss one a foot or so away from him. It was like he was beckoning them to come closer. He kept doing this, eking the chips out slowly, until there was a big group of seagulls in front of him. 15 or 20. A tiny army. He'd throw them a chip every now and then. Just enough to keep the birds interested, but not enough to sate them. It was frustrating. They were getting angry, squawking. It was like he was rearing them up for something. Then the train came and everyone got on. But the man stayed on the ground with his chips. Just when the train was about to leave, it happened. Right before the doors closed, the man threw the entire bag of the fish and chips into the train. The entire flock of seagulls followed the bag, and the doors closed. Inside the train, pandemonium. The next train stop was 5 minutes away. Guide us to bank. What banks usually do to other people. The idea of beating the banks at their own game may seem like a rich joke, but Dmitry Agarkov, a 42-year-old Russian man, may have managed it. Unhappy with the terms of an unsolicited credit card offer he received from online bank Tinkoff Credit Systems, Agarkov scanned the document, wrote in his own terms, and sent it through. The bank approved the contract without reading the amended fine print, unwittingly agreeing to a 0% interest rate, unlimited credit and no fees, as well as a stipulation that the bank pay steep fines for changing or cancelling the contract. Agarkov used the card for 2 years, but the bank ultimately cancelled it and sued Agarkov for $1,363. The bank said he owed them charges, interest and late payment fees. A court ruled that, because of the no fee, no interest stipulation Agarkov had written in, he owed only his unpaid $575 balance. Now Agarkov is suing the bank for $727,000 for not honoring the contract's terms, and the bank is hollering fraud. They signed the documents without looking. They said what usually their borrowers say in court. We have not read it. Agarkov's lawyer said, the shoe's on the other foot now, eh? My former employer had metered parking lot. The lot was heavily monitored, and they'd ticket like the very minute your shut expired. It was decidedly not good for business. People want to be able to linger at a coffee shop, you know. Besides, there was no reason for that lot to be metered anyhow. It was barely even adjacent to anything but our shop. Well, the meter just started breaking all the time. It would get fixed by the city, but then a few days later it'd be smashed or jammed, or whatever. We asked if people would be towed, and the city was like no meter, no ticket. One night I stayed a bit late to clean a freezer. When I left, I spotted my boss breaking the freshly fixed meter. She was like, yep, guess I'm a criminal, eh? I once counseled one of the students in my homeroom to quit school, get a GED, and enroll in an apprenticeship program. Had I been caught, I would have been fired, since policy was to try to motivate all students to graduate. Kid was failing all his classes, which were 9th grade courses, but he was smart, working a full-time job, was already 18 years old, and had a crappy home life. By far, the city of Sao Paulo never cleaned its tunnels, so they got black from all the car fumes over the years. This guy cleaned skull drawings in the soot using a rag and some water. The city sent officials to try and stop him, but hey, he was cleaning. No vandalism there. Eventually they sent someone with a hose to clean this guy's vandalism for good, only to discover how dirty the walls truly were. This was back in the late 1950s, when my granddad was just a teenager, 14 to 15, and he lived in a rural area in Arizona. This relatively new family in town was arousing suspicion because the wife and kids were always ganged up. My grandpa's stepfather spoke to the man of the house and told him that people didn't like that he was abasing his family and he needed to stop. When he didn't stop, my grandpa's stepdad excused himself from dinner one night and left the house for the evening. The following day, on the way to school, my granddad was on the bus and drove across a field where family man McG was tied to one of the posts, beat to holy hell. My granddad, the bus driver, and another older student helped untie the guy and get him onto the bus so that he could get back home. Nobody talked about it, but apparently my grandpa's stepdad and a couple other local men caught up to the guy and beat the shit out of him so that he'd know how his defenseless family had it. My grandma was a kindergarten teacher for 50 years. Yup, you read that right. She retired at the mandatory age of 72. It was a small community, most economically okay, but some poverty. Every few years grandma would develop a case of the clumsy. She'd trip while watering the plants, and wouldn't you know it, but she'd spill a bit of water on the child that was unwashed, and wore the same clothes for weeks. Nothing for it, but to make up for her mistake, by giving him a bath and clean clothes, then return the clothes she messed up, after she cleaned them. A case of clumsy would last the whole school year, and oddly enough she tripped near the same child every time. The case of clumsy often meant she miscounted her grandchildren every morning, and made an extra lunch. Would you mind taking it, so it doesn't go to waste? This one actually happened yesterday at work. A girl and her mom came in, and got a few sandwiches, but the girl wanted a brownie. They were paying cash, but were like $3 short for the brownie. The girl didn't throw a fit or anything, but was pretty sad. I was just gonna let them take it. It's just a brownie. But before I can say anything, the guy behind them says, I would like all but 5 of your brownies. Mind you, this is like 40 brownies, which costs like a $110 of just brownies. He proceeds to then give the girl all of the brownies, which needed 3 bags, just to carry all of them. The girl was ecstatic, and everyone else was laughing their race off. We'll never forget you, brownie man. I've seen a grizzled old-ish guy pull a mother who hit her kid for crying out of her seat by the collar, and grumble at her how he'd show her how it feels to be hit for crying, if she kept going. In the most disdainful tone I've ever heard in real life, he then told her to sit back down, and dropped her in her seat. When the nice police people came, nobody had seen a thing.